Hey everyone, it's James. This is March 29th, about 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and this is the 4-hour chart of Bitcoin, BTC, USD on the Bitfinex exchange. First off, this is not investment advice. Second of all, I like to go over where we've come from, and we've come from basically the blow off top from the bubble run that we had, and we've now just consolidated we've formed a downtrend, and we've stayed within that downtrend frequency. This red line set you see here is the frequency of the price action, and then basically we are forming lower highs. So as long as my drawing is good, you can see those lower highs, and that's what we continue to do. The question is now, do we put in a lower low? We are getting close to that area. We'll see what happens. I think that price is ultimately going to settle possibly over the weekend in about the 6,500 range. We may stop a little short in the 6,700 range, but right between there, a few $100 is kind of where I'm thinking that price may have a temporary bottom, and then from there may rally for a short little run and then a roll back over. I still think on the overall picture that price is going to continue this downward movement in a very similar series. So we'll see what happens, but basically when I zoom in on price here, we've taken out the uptrend line, we retested the uptrend line, and we've continued to push to the downside. This is obviously a very negative sign. We had the pressure from this trend line. We also have the pressure from this trend line. We may, I think going into maybe tonight into tomorrow, we may whip back and forth in this area before having a final plunge downward. So I still think we have much lower to go, but there's going to be a lot of volatility in this area, and it's going to create a lot of confusion for investors, and that is the point of it. You want to get people off balance, whip them back and forth, beat them, and then obviously, create a lower low versus this, and then from there price will run out. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be a wild weekend. Tomorrow, the U.S. market is closed, like for the stock market and so forth. I believe, and I'm pretty sure the futures market's actually closed too. I'd have to double check it, but I'm 99.9% sure it's closed as well. So anyways, those markets are closed, so that may have an impact on the price action in Bitcoin, and the volatility may even be extra high. And tonight we've seen some wild and crazy volatility here. This bar has been spiking up and down. We're talking about as low as let's see, on the Bitfinex exchange, 68.83 all the way up to 73.40, or sorry, 73.62. It's been bouncing back and forth in this area. So I'll have to see how price reacts in this area, but we're already under the pressure. We're under the downtrend line. We're starting to cascade a little lower, but like I said, this is the full anticipation of something like this. Boom, boom, maybe just like a little double top like that, and then boom, roll over. I'm expecting basically a higher low, and more than likely a higher high. That's going to be a fake out. It's going to attract buyers. Everyone's going to freak out and think it's going to the moon, and boom, that's what's going to happen. So we'll see if that's how it plays out, but basically we've seen it happen before. These little false rallies that occur, and everyone gets their hopes up because it puts in a higher low, and it ultimately creates what the people in the pattern community call a bear flag. I just call them coils, but essentially that's exactly what's going to form, is a bear flag in this area. That's what I'm expecting, and then from there, like I said, a rollover to the downside. So but anyways, that's it. It's a pretty quick report. There's not too much to talk about that I have not talked about. I've said in my previous videos that I'm bearish on Bitcoin right here. At this moment, I thought we were going to have a breakout out of this zone, and we never did. Basically, the numbers for that area still, because just in case something does run away, and my analysis is wrong, we'd have to break about the 7,700, 7,800 zone to even break out of this red line, and we would have to maintain trading outside of that, which means the next bars thereafter, so over the next 4 to 8 hours after we break that zone, we'd have to stay outside of this area. So that would be the positive side. The full downside I see is, like I said, about 6,500 to the downside. So we'll see what happens. But that's what I'm waiting for. I want to see how this weekend pans out. I think it's going to be a madhouse due to the holiday weekend, and I just think that the opportunity to get into this market will present itself, but I don't think it's going to happen until possibly Sunday to Monday morning. Typically, the price likes to form these opportunities somewhere late nights, all the way to about maybe 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So they're very, very, very late night opportunities, and then typically the runs just go crazy. But like I've said in my previous video, I don't mean to prolong it, but we've had a lot of thin runs, and what I mean by that is the base to these runs, the foundation to these runs are not big. So we see this right here, a little thin run. You can obviously see the aftermath of what occurs there. The same thing right here, another thin run. You can see the aftermath, and like I've said in my prior videos, that if we keep having these thin runs from these bottoms, right, and what these do is they hype investors up, they get them crazy and wild, the guppies, and then the big money just dumps into them, and that's exactly what this is. That's exactly what, honestly, the essence of lower highs and lower lows is sellers in control. It's complete seller domination. That means there are more sellers than there are buyers. It's literally that simple, that basic. That is exactly what is happening in Bitcoin. There are more sellers than there are buyers. So yes, the volume may be high some days or some weeks and some months when you look at it month over month, week over week, day over day, whatever you want to analyze. But you have to understand the bigger picture, okay? Ignore the bubble phase. The bubble phase gets wild and crazy and things get absolutely insane because the market becomes euphoric. But when we start to look at this area right here, okay, there's no denying that sellers are in control of this market, and every run has ended up an absolute disaster for the investors who chased it up. Okay, and that's what I've said in my prior videos too. We have a lot of thin runs, and you can obviously see what happens. There's no foundation, there's no base. I thought for a second this was going to hold. It did not hold, so now we are going to continue lower on another frequency, and we will find out if Bitcoin is going to put in a bottom this weekend. If it does not, and we keep going lower, if we blow through the 6,400 to 6,300 zone and we continue going lower, we could easily, I think, like I've said in my prior videos, right, I'm not going to change my analysis. If we head towards the 6,000 bottom, there's going to be no double bottom, okay? There might be a bounce from the area, but I am extremely confident that if we head to the 6,000 bottom, we're going to blow it out. Why? Because history is already showing us that we have lower highs and lower lows. So, for me to think anything other than that would just, it would just go against my logic on what I am seeing in this chart. So it doesn't mean that's necessarily the end of Bitcoin, but what it means is that if we break through that zone, there's a high likelihood we could start heading into the fives. And then maybe from there we find a bottom. We're only really gonna know where the bottom is in hindsight as it forms a base somewhere, wherever that base forms, and then price rallies from there. But don't worry if you miss the bottom. Everyone wants to always time the bottom, and people destroy themselves trying to time the bottom. They try to catch a falling knife and they end up cutting their hands off, and by the time they're ready to catch it, by the time it falls to the ground and forms, a base for you to invest in, the investors have no hands. And it's like, you've just blown out your account trying to catch this thing. But instead, the sensible thing to do, let the market work itself out. Let the market create an opportunity and then come in with your money. If you want to use your speculative money to try to catch a falling knife, do that. And what that means is a chunk of your portfolio that's less than 10%. A chunk of money you don't care what happens with, right? If it gets set on fire, it would not, cause you complete devastation. But what people start doing is they get hyped up. They start listening to the media. It's going to 25, 50, 100,000, 1 million, 1 billion. I see the craziest articles. Still to today, I see crazy articles like that. But anyways, that's not the point. The point is that don't try to catch the falling knife. You just wait for it to settle, wait for it to form a bottom, wait for it to maybe change direction and actually form a couple higher highs and higher lows, so you know the market is turning around. Okay, don't go 100% of your portfolio. Like this is not investment advice, but this is just me talking logically from managing people's money and investing myself. Is just, you never do that. You never do that. You wait for a positive confirmation, which would obviously be higher highs and higher lows, to confirm the market is turning around. If you want to use your speculative money, sorry, then go ahead and do so. Try to call the bottom. Try to be the one who can brag to everybody that you caught the bottom. But I'm telling you, if you do that with a large chunk of your portfolio, you're going to blow yourself out, or you're going to be one of those holders, right? Imagine how many holders are still holding and they're just watching their portfolio deteriorate day after day after day after day. It does not mean the market's not going to turn around. It just means that you are going to potentially be holding for a very, very long time. And for everybody to think that this market's just going to rapidly swing, like when I see those articles that, oh, we're going to 25,000 by the year end, we have quite a huge run to form. And I can tell you, we're not going to 25,000 or anywhere above that if we keep forming these little tiny V bottoms. There's just no structure there at all. Okay, if we form something like something lower, and we form something like this, then yeah, we could build the structure. We'll just build the structure out this way, and we'll kind of build a base out that way, right? Right now, everything's so widespread that there's really no base here. This is a gigantic base with no tight price action. So if we can form this area, right, even if it happens somewhere in here, and we can form a nice tight base, something with some nice price action like so, that would give price a nice foundation to work off of and to actually do something with. But anyways, we'll see what happens. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but I'm just trying to talk about the overall market. I know everyone wants to get hyped on the future, and it does not mean this is the end of Bitcoin. It just means that there's going to be some volatility and there's going to be some big bumps in the road. And if you're going to try to catch the bottom, then I would highly recommend you not use a large portion of your portfolio. I mean, it's not investment advice, but it's just me trying to talk common sense into people to where, there's either two things you're going to do. You're going to try to catch the bottom with a small portion, and maybe you do it, and then you can add to it from there. Or you are going to just be a long-term investor, put a stake in the ground and say, this is it, this is where I want to enter into, and I'm going to hang on to it for years and see what happens with Bitcoin. But from my perspective and my analysis of this current market and what has happened since the bubble top back in December, is that this Bitcoin, the price action is showing that price is headed lower, that sellers are in complete control and dominating this market. And I don't care what the volume shows, it does not matter. All that matters at the end of the day are what these bars are telling you, and what they're telling you is that sellers are in control, and there's no denying it. We have a series of lower highs and lower lows. So anyways, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm going to do this analysis every single day. So that way, if the market does change, and that way, if my perspective does change, you're going to hear it, literally the next day. Or, possibly intraday, depending on if I have the time and what actually occurs that day. So anyways, but that's it for tonight. I hope everybody has a great day or great night, depending on where you are. I do thank you for your time. I thank you for your support. If you do like the videos, give them a like, comment, subscribe, share the content. And then that's it. You can learn more about me at my website, geometriccharts.com. It has links to my social media, my Twitter, my YouTube, and then my Slack community that's absolutely free for people to join. It's just a group of like-minded crypto investors that share their opinions, news, even their own charts. There's over 164 members or 65 members, I don't know, somewhere around there now. But anyways, it's a nice community for people that are interested in the cryptocurrency market. So you can just go to my site, you can scroll to the bottom, the links are there, and you can go ahead and join. And I think you'll like it. I think there's a lot of great people in there, and everyone's extremely friendly and welcoming. So there's no condescending attitudes or anything like that. And people share their charts, like I said, and sometimes that can be extremely valuable, or news, or just analytics on like volume, market cap, just different things like that. So it's quite interesting for anyone that's interested in the cryptocurrency market. So anyways, that's it for tonight. I hope everybody has a great day, great weekend, or great night, depending on where you are in the world. And I will talk to everyone tomorrow.